But first, to a part of the Trump agenda that the administration still has not been able to implement, his travel ban on visitors from 6 mostly Muslim countries. The revised version of the ban remains on hold by federal court order, and the president this morning aired out his grievances once again. John Yang reports.
This afternoon, the White House deputy press secretary said it didn't matter what President Trump's executive order on immigration is called.
I think that the president isn't concerned with what you call it. He's concerned with national security and protecting people in this country.
This morning, the president was very concerned, stating, "People, the lawyers and the courts can call it whatever they want, but I am calling it what we need and what it is, a travel ban." In fact, it was his own aides who refused to call it that.
It's not a travel ban. It's a vetting system to keep America safe. That's it, plain and simple.
It's not a travel ban. Remember, it's a travel pause. What the president said, for 90 days, we were going to pause in terms of people from those countries coming to the United States. That would give me time to look at additional vetting.
Mr. Trump also slammed his own Justice Department, saying it should have stuck with the original executive order, not the watered-down, politically correct current version, even though it was the president himself who revoked the original version when he signed the new one. Mr. Trump has asked the Justice Department to seek a quick Supreme Court hearing to reinstate the order after lower courts blocked it from taking effect. It's up to the justices to decide how quickly they'll act. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm John Yang.
Separately, there's word tonight that the FBI has arrested a federal contract employee on charges of leaking a secret document on Russian election hacking. NBC News reports that a Georgia woman allegedly gave the National Security Agency document to The Intercept, an online magazine. It says that it shows Russian military intelligence engineered a cyber attack on at least one U.S. supplier of voting software last year. Hackers also tried to dupe elections officials into handing over login credentials. It's the first evidence that Moscow tried to go beyond swaying public opinion and interfere in election machinery. For more on all this and more, we turn to Politics Monday with Amy Walter of the Cook Political Report and Tamara Keith of NPR. So Amy and Tam, this is a story that's just been breaking literally within the last hour. We learned about this online magazine, Amy, a few hours ago, but now we're learning about the arrest. If it is the case that the Russians were able to in some way interfere or get close to interfering with the machinery of an election, what does that mean?
Well, that's just one more piece of what has been this never-ending puzzle called the Russian impact on this election. And what's difficult about sifting through all of this, Judy, it's a little bit like one of those games where there's a picture made up of a lot of different tiles. You don't know what that picture is until you flip over all of the tiles to get the picture. And all we're getting is one tile here and one tile there and one tile over here. So we have little pieces, but we don't know what the big picture is. And I don't know that we're ever going to find out the big picture. Then put on top of it all of the politics around it, whether it's the president saying he doesn't know really if the Russians interfered in this, the push by Democrats to really politicize a lot of this, the Russian, including Hillary Clinton, who says that the Russian interference cost her the election. And now, of course, we have James Comey, the FBI director, coming to the Hill to talk more about this on Thursday.
And speaking of which, Tam, the White House did announce today, as we reported, that the president is not going to step in and exert what we call executive privilege to prevent James Comey from doing that.
Now, there was a question of whether they could actually assert that privilege and whether they would succeed. But yes, they're saying that the president will not do that. There was also a question of politically whether it was a good idea for the president to try to interfere with Comey testifying, because that would just cause a lot of people to say, well, what is he hiding?
And Amy, there was a lot of speculation about this, people saying if the president did that, it would be explosive.
Absolutely. I mean, let him go and testify and then respond to that. If you block him from testifying in the first place, the first thing everybody's going to say is, well, of course the White House has something to hide. That's why they don't want him to testify.
So let's go back, Tam, to this other story we've been dealing with for several hours today, and that's the storm of tweets that you just heard John Yang reporting on from the president today, basically doubling down on his original travel ban, saying, I don't care what anybody calls it, I want the travel ban, and I don't like what the Justice Department did, and so on and so on. Does he help himself with this, or is there some risk?
Is that a serious question? Lawyers would say, many lawyers would say, stop talking. Those lawyers include George Conway, who is someone who was up for potentially a job, a high-level job in the Justice Department, pulled out of that job last week, happens to be the husband of Kellyanne Conway, said in a series of tweets, basically, the president's tweets may make people feel good, but they are not helping his legal case. Also, the lawyer who is representing Hawaii in one of these cases that has led to the travel ban being blocked, essentially said, wow, thank you, President Trump, you're certainly helping us. Didn't realize you were going to be co-counsel.
And that's part of the reason that the courts did not enact the travel ban in the first place was based on statements that Trump made on the campaign trail. And so it is clear that his own words have made this that much more difficult, that the actual text of the ban is as much an issue as what he said in his campaign about wanting to ban Muslims, and now going to Twitter and also making the case against himself. So he has made it that much harder. It's not to get beyond just the text of this.
And on top of all this, at the same time, Tam, Kellyanne Conway, whom you mentioned a moment ago because her husband was tweeting criticism of the president, was telling the reporters this morning, she was interviewed on one of the morning television shows, just don't pay attention to the tweets, that you should be focused on what the president's getting done.
Yeah, why focus on the tweets, she says? Well, because they are statements of the President of the United States. And when the President of the United States says something, it matters. Now, sometimes his statements come on, letterhead from the White House that say this is an official statement of the President of the United States. But the reality is that often he goes on Twitter and contradicts the things that are on the official letterhead. And really his tweets are this unprecedented access to what is in the mind of the President of the United States. It is unfiltered. His spokeswoman was asked today, are these tweets being vetted yet? Are lawyers vetting the tweets? And she said, I don't think so. So actually, this is what the president thinks.
And says, and it shouldn't be any different if he says it on Twitter than if he says it at a press conference or if he sent out something on official letterhead.
And I should say, we at the NewsHour view the tweets as another form of statement from the president, from the White House. I mean, there are official statements, there are executive orders, any number of other ways they can give interviews, they can make speeches, and Twitter is another
one of those
of communicating.
methods. And everything he says when he was a private citizen is very different than when he is president of the United States. No matter what he says, in what venue he says it, it carries the weight of the president of the United States. It carries the weight of being the leader of this country.
Though I think that he considers the tweets to be sort of a direct message to his base, whereas the more official statements are seen for a wider audience. But I think he sees those tweets as going directly to the base, going around the media, but everyone else is watching, including leaders from around the world.
Everybody is watching who focuses on this administration. Quickly, Tam, meantime, the White House was trying today to regroup. They said this is going to be infrastructure week. They had a little briefing for the news media where they said we're going to be focusing on a plan to pour a lot of effort and money into rebuilding the nation's infrastructure. It's still not clear about the details and the cost, but they're trying to change the subject.
Yeah, Infrastructure Week is going really well. It started with the president tweeting at 6 in the morning about something completely unrelated to infrastructure. But they did announce a proposal on privatizing air traffic control. The president held a big, flashy signing ceremony to sign a memo being sent to Congress to say that these are the ideas that he supports. That's not a bill signing. That is a memo signing.
So they're regrouping.
Well, and for President Trump, this should be his biggest, most powerful statement. He was elected to Congress as a businessman, as a deal maker, as a builder of things, to put together an infrastructure bill that Democrats, Republicans can agree on, that he can promote. This should be one of the easiest things for him to do. And yet, both by his own tweets and by the fact that this bill itself, as it stands, is not going to get support from Democrats.
Also, there is no infrastructure bill, just to be clear, at this point.
we'll keep watching, and I
We
know you will
We'll keep
too.
watching.
Yes.
Amy, Tam, thank you.
Thank you.